It was a quiet night in the village. The stars were shining, and the wind moved gently through the trees. A young man named Harun sat outside his small house, looking up at the sky. He often did this, dreaming about other worlds and strange places. He had always felt that Earth was not the only home in the universe. That night, something changed. At first, he saw a light, a small blue dot moving across the stars. He thought it was a shooting star. But then, it stopped. It didn't fall or fade. It just floated there in the sky, brighter and brighter, until it became a huge glowing shape. It looked like a ship, round, smooth, and silent. Harun stood up, heart pounding in his chest. "What is that?" he whispered to himself. The ship slowly came down, landing just beyond the trees at the edge of the forest. There was no sound, no wind, no fire, just soft light and silence. Harun could not stop himself. His curiosity was stronger than his fear. He grabbed a flashlight and ran into the trees. Every step made him more nervous, but also more excited. As he got closer, he saw it clearly. It was not a human ship. It was smooth like glass, silver and blue, with no doors or windows. And then he heard something. A sound, weak and soft, like someone calling for help. He rushed forward and found a figure lying near the ship. It was a girl, but not a human girl. Her skin was pale purple. Her hair was silver, glowing like moonlight. Her eyes were closed, and she looked hurt. Harun knelt beside her. "Are you okay?" he asked. The alien girl slowly opened her eyes. Her lips moved, but he could not understand her language. She tried to sit up but winced in pain and fell back. He looked around. There was no one else. No help. Just him and her. He took a deep breath. "Don't worry. I'll help you," he said, even though he didn't know what to do. He lifted her carefully in his arms. She was light, almost like a feather. As he walked back toward his house, the ship behind them slowly faded, disappearing into thin air like a dream. Harun didn't understand what just happened, but one thing was clear. His life was no longer ordinary. Something, or someone, from the stars had come into it, and nothing would ever be the same again. As the sun began to set, casting a soft glow over the distant mountains, Sam sat quietly by the window, lost in thought. His mind kept returning to the mysterious alien woman he'd found in the woods earlier. Her pale blue skin, delicate features, and bright silver eyes were not something he could easily forget. He had never believed in aliens. Growing up, stories about extraterrestrials had always seemed like fantasy, but here she was, alive, right in front of him, and in desperate need of help. Sam had been cautious at first, unsure whether she was dangerous or not. But her helplessness, combined with the pleading look in her eyes, softened his resolve. When she had collapsed, barely able to speak, he knew he couldn't just leave her there. Something inside him told him to help, despite the many questions that swirled in his head. She had been injured, her legs weak and trembling. Sam carefully helped her to his small cabin, offering her the little food and water he had. She didn't speak much, only whispering words he couldn't fully understand. But her eyes spoke volumes: fear, confusion, and a longing for safety. Sitting beside her, Sam noticed the delicate markings on her skin. The faint lines that seemed to glow softly under the light intrigued him. They looked like symbols, but he didn't know what they meant. As the silence between them stretched, Sam finally spoke. "Why are you here?" he asked gently, trying not to startle her. His voice broke the quiet tension in the room. She looked at him, her silver eyes wide with caution. For a moment, Sam thought she might not answer at all. But then, in a voice as soft as a breeze, she spoke. "I'm running." "From what?" Sam asked, leaning forward, his curiosity getting the better of him. Her gaze shifted to the window, and Sam followed her eyes. The woods outside were quiet, but something in her expression made him wonder if she was expecting something, or someone, to come after her. Before she could respond, there was a sudden noise outside. A rustling sound, like footsteps on dry leaves. Sam's heart skipped a beat. He quickly stood, moving to the door and peering through the small window. His breath caught when he saw shadowy figures moving in the distance. They were coming closer. The alien woman stiffened beside him, her body tense with fear. "They're here," she whispered, her voice trembling. "They will find me." Sam didn't have time to think. Instinctively, he grabbed her hand and pulled her toward the back of the cabin. "We need to move. Now." Her hand was cold, but Sam could feel the urgency in her grip as they hurried through the back door and into the woods. The figures in the distance were getting closer, and Sam could only hope that they weren't already too late. As the days passed, the human and the alien woman, who still hadn't shared her name, found themselves working together in an uneasy partnership. The alien was still cautious, constantly glancing over her shoulder, as if someone, or something, was following them. The man could feel the tension in the air, but he didn't ask her questions. He had learned that sometimes silence spoke louder than words. One evening, as they made camp beside a quiet river, the woman finally spoke. Her voice was soft, almost hesitant. "You know, humans are strange," she said, watching the water ripple under the fading light of the sunset. He raised an eyebrow, glancing up at her. "Strange?" He couldn't help but ask. "How?" She shifted slightly, looking uncomfortable. "You care for others, even when it doesn't make sense. You helped me when I had nothing to offer. I don't understand it. In my world, only the strong survive, and kindness is often seen as a weakness." The man thought about her words for a moment. He had grown up hearing stories about the strength of humans, their ability to rise above adversity, their resilience. But he had never thought of it as anything extraordinary. He simply did what felt right. Helping her had felt right. "Well, maybe strength doesn't always mean being tough. Sometimes it means helping others, even when it's hard," he said with a shrug. The alien woman seemed to think about this for a long time, her eyes focused on the horizon. Then, with a deep sigh, she looked at him. I don't know if I can trust you completely. My people, they don't forgive easily." The man's heart skipped a beat. He knew the risks of being caught up in something bigger than himself, but something in her eyes made him want to take that risk. "I'm not asking you to trust me right away, but I'll do whatever it takes to help you. You're not alone anymore." The woman's eyes softened, a small flicker of something he couldn't quite read passing through them. She didn't speak, but the way she held his gaze was enough. As they sat there by the river, the weight of their situation hung between them. She was an alien, an outsider to his world, and yet here they were, two strangers thrown together by fate. Despite their differences, there was something that bound them, something that made him believe they could survive this, no matter what lay ahead. The stars began to appear overhead, twinkling brightly as the world around them grew quiet. The woman leaned back, her eyes tracing the stars as if searching for something. The man followed her gaze, but instead of feeling lost in the vastness of space, he felt a small sense of peace. Together, they would face whatever was coming. Together, they might just make it. Alex was still stunned by the alien's sudden departure. He had no idea what was going on. She had appeared so quickly, like a shadow slipping through the trees, and now she was gone. He stood in the middle of the dark forest, the wind rustling through the branches, trying to make sense of it all. His heart was still racing, the adrenaline from the strange encounter still buzzing in his veins. What had just happened? Who was she? And why had she said she was hiding from something? With no answers and only questions swirling in his mind, Alex took a deep breath and began to walk back to his camp. The fire he had started earlier flickered faintly in the distance. He needed to gather his thoughts. As he approached the fire, his thoughts were interrupted by a sound in the bushes nearby. His hand instinctively reached for the knife at his belt. He had no idea what kind of creature might be lurking in the forest. It wasn't unusual to hear strange noises here, but tonight everything felt different. The rustling grew louder, then stopped suddenly. Alex held his breath, waiting. A figure emerged from the shadows, and for a moment he thought his heart would stop. It was her, the alien girl. She stood there, barely visible under the moonlight, her glowing eyes reflecting the campfire's light. There was something almost hypnotic about her presence, like she was both part of the night and not a part of it at the same time. "Why are you following me?" Alex asked, his voice sounding more uncertain than he intended. The girl didn't speak immediately. Instead, she stepped closer, her movements graceful and cautious. Alex couldn't help but notice how different she was from any human being he had ever encountered. She was unlike anything he had seen before, and yet there was something oddly familiar about her. "I'm not following you," she said softly, her voice calm, though there was an edge of something Alex couldn't quite place. "I'm here because I need your help." Alex blinked in surprise. "Help? What kind of help?" Her eyes met his, and for a second, the world around him seemed to stop. There was a strange intensity in her gaze, as if she was trying to communicate something deep, something important. "The people who are looking for me. They are dangerous," she said quietly. "I don't know where to go, but I think you can help me." Alex took a step back, unsure of what to do. He didn't know who this girl was, and the idea of getting involved in something dangerous felt like a terrible idea. But then again, he couldn't just walk away. Something about her, something in her eyes, pulled at him. It wasn't just fear, it was trust. Without a word, he sat down by the fire, gesturing for her to join him. She hesitated for a moment, then slowly, carefully, sat down beside him. And so, in the stillness of the forest, under the watchful eyes of the stars, Alex found himself caught in a situation he didn't understand, with an alien he barely knew. But for the first time that night, he felt like he wasn't alone anymore. As the day wore on, the tension between the human and the alien only seemed to increase. The air was thick with unspoken words, and the alien woman couldn't shake the feeling that her presence was an intrusion. She had come seeking refuge, but now she felt as if she was out of place in a world so different from her own. The human man, on the other hand, was no stranger to feeling like an outsider. He had lived his entire life on Earth, but there was something about this alien woman that both intrigued and confused him. He had never seen anyone like her before. Her strange eyes, her delicate features, her skin that shimmered with an otherworldly glow. She wasn't just an alien in the way he had imagined. She was a being of incredible beauty, a mystery he couldn't quite solve. But he also knew that he couldn't allow himself to get too close. He couldn't afford to get lost in her presence. His heart raced whenever she looked at him. And that terrified him more than anything. Was this some kind of test? Was she playing with him, or was she genuinely lost, seeking help? The alien woman caught him staring at her, and her eyes flickered with something he couldn't quite read. For a moment, their gazes locked, and a silence fell between them. Her expression softened, and she slowly approached him. Her movements were graceful, yet cautious. She was afraid. He could see it in her eyes. She wasn't just unsure of her surroundings. She was unsure of him. "I don't belong here," she said quietly, her voice barely a whisper. "This world is not mine. I don't understand it." The words struck him deeply, as though she had read the very thoughts he had kept hidden for so long. In that moment, he understood. She wasn't just lost in a physical sense. She was lost in a world that didn't understand her, a place where she felt alien in every way. He took a step forward, surprising himself. It felt like an instinct rather than a choice. "You're not alone," he said softly, his voice steady. "I don't know what brought you here, but I won't leave you to face it alone." The alien woman looked at him, her eyes filled with uncertainty, but also something else, a flicker of hope. It was small, but it was there. I don't know if I can trust you," she admitted, her voice trembling slightly. The man felt his heart race again, but he didn't back down. "You can," he replied. "You can trust me." Her gaze lingered on him for a moment longer before she nodded, a hesitant but sincere gesture. The human had no idea what lay ahead, but for now, he was ready to take the first step. For better or worse, he had made his choice. And with that, they were no longer strangers. The moonlight was soft against the dark sky, casting shadows on the forest as the human and the alien girl walked together through the quiet night. Though they had only known each other for a short time, something deep had already begun to form between them. The alien girl, still unsure of what to think of the human, kept her eyes on the ground. She was afraid of what might happen next, but there was something about his presence that made her feel safe. The human, on the other hand, couldn't stop thinking about the mysterious alien who had unexpectedly come into his life. He had seen her struggle, felt her fear, and yet she still fought on. There was strength in her, something that went beyond the strange features of her alien appearance. It was her resilience, her determination to survive, that impressed him the most. As they walked deeper into the forest, the sound of their footsteps was the only thing breaking the silence. The human finally spoke, breaking the stillness between them. "I don't know what to say," he admitted, his voice quiet but sincere. "I didn't expect any of this. But I'm here. I'm not going anywhere." The alien girl glanced up at him, her golden eyes reflecting the moonlight. She had never heard a human speak like this. Most of her encounters had been filled with fear, rejection, or anger. But this human, this man, was different. She couldn't quite understand it, but she felt an odd warmth inside her when he spoke. "Why are you helping me?" she asked softly, still unsure if she could trust him completely. The human looked at her, his expression steady, filled with an honesty she had never encountered before. "Because I believe everyone deserves a chance to be understood, a chance to be safe, and I think you deserve that." The alien girl was taken aback by his words. She had expected fear, maybe even anger, but never this kindness. For a brief moment, she felt a tear prick at her eyes, but she quickly blinked it away. She couldn't let herself show weakness. Not now. The human reached into his pocket and pulled out a small glowing device. It was a communication tool he had found earlier in the day, one that might be able to send a signal to any nearby help. "Do you think this will work?" the alien girl asked, eyeing the device with suspicion. "Or will it bring more danger?" The human smiled, holding it up. "We won't know until we try." The alien girl hesitated, then nodded. She had no better options. Together, they stood in the shadow of the tall trees, both uncertain but resolute. The night was far from over, and many challenges still lay ahead, but for the first time in a long while, the alien girl felt a glimmer of hope. And she wasn't facing it alone. The sun was setting, casting a soft golden glow across the landscape. Everything seemed calm, yet in the air, there was a heavy sense of anticipation. The alien woman, who had been hiding her emotions for so long, stood by the edge of the forest, her eyes locked on the human who had slowly become her anchor in this strange world. She had always tried to keep her distance, to keep her feelings hidden, but now everything was changing. The human had been there for her, always understanding, always kind. He had given her his trust, his help, and even his heart without asking for anything in return. She had seen humans as fragile, simple creatures at first, but now she realized just how wrong she had been. In his eyes, she had found something she never thought she would: comfort, warmth, and a sense of belonging. She took a deep breath and stepped forward, her voice trembling just a little. "I need to tell you something," she said, her tone soft but filled with sincerity. The human looked up at her, his expression open, as if waiting for her to continue. He didn't interrupt, didn't press her for more, just allowed her the time she needed. "I've been running from the truth for so long, hiding from what I really feel," she continued, her voice growing stronger. "When I first came to this world, I never imagined that a human could be the one to change everything. But you did." She paused, searching his face for a reaction, but all she saw was patience, waiting for her to explain. "I'm not sure when it happened, but somewhere along the way, you became important to me." She looked down, taking a step closer to him. "I didn't want to need you. I didn't want to be vulnerable. But now, I can't imagine my life without you in it." The human felt his heart race. He had suspected there was something deeper between them, but hearing her say it out loud sent a wave of warmth through him. His voice, when he spoke, was calm but filled with emotion. "You don't have to be afraid," he said, his hand reaching out to gently touch hers. "You don't have to hide from how you feel. I'm not going anywhere." The alien woman's eyes widened, the warmth in her chest growing stronger. She had never imagined she would hear those words from him. Slowly, she nodded, a small smile tugging at her lips. For the first time, she allowed herself to believe that maybe, just maybe, she wasn't alone in this strange world. "I don't know what this means for us," she whispered, "but I think I'm ready to find out." He squeezed her hand gently, his expression filled with quiet reassurance. "We'll figure it out together, one step at a time." For the first time, the alien woman felt a true sense of peace. The world around them felt less foreign, less threatening. In this moment, with the human by her side, she realized that even in the vast unknown, there could be a place for them both. The next morning, as the sun's first light peeked through the forest, Alex and Lyra found themselves sitting side by side. The air was calm, and the only sound was the soft rustling of leaves in the breeze. They had spent the night together in the quiet shelter of the trees, a place that, for the first time, felt like home to both of them. Lyra, her head resting on Alex's shoulder, stirred awake with a soft sigh. She looked at him, her alien eyes reflecting something deeper than gratitude, something she couldn't quite put into words. She had never expected to find someone like him, someone so different yet so similar to her. Alex glanced at her, feeling an unfamiliar warmth in his chest. Over the past few days, they had shared not only their fears and hopes, but also small, quiet moments of peace that spoke louder than any words. Lyra had opened up to him, telling him about her world, her people, and the struggles she faced. And Alex had listened, offering her kindness without asking for anything in return. "I never thought I'd find someone like you, human," Lyra said quietly, her voice barely above a whisper. Her eyes were distant, as if she were seeing something beyond the trees. Alex smiled softly, his eyes meeting hers. "And I never thought I'd be here, with someone like you." The bond they had formed felt fragile yet strong, like the quiet morning air that held them together without pressure. They had both come from different worlds, yet somehow they had found a connection, an understanding that went beyond the barriers of language and species. "Lyra," Alex began, his voice steady, "I know this is all so sudden, but I don't want this to end. I want to help you. I want to make sure you're safe, no matter what." Lyra turned her gaze to him, her expression softening. She had never felt this way before. There was something about Alex, a human, so simple yet so profound, that made her believe in hope again. She had faced countless challenges in her life, but in this moment, sitting beside him, everything felt different. "You're not just saving me, Alex," Lyra said, her voice full of emotion. "You're showing me that I can still trust, that not all humans are bad, and that there's kindness in the universe." Alex didn't know what to say to that. He wasn't a hero, just someone who had seen a need and done what he could. But hearing her say those words made him realize that maybe, just maybe, their connection wasn't just about survival, it was about something far more meaningful. For the first time in days, Alex felt a sense of peace settle in his heart. There would be challenges ahead, no doubt, but with Lyra by his side, he felt ready to face them. Together, they had already started something that could change everything. Not just for them, but for the future they would build, one where kindness, understanding, and love could break through even the most impossible barriers. And so, they sat together, two souls bound not by fate, but by choice, ready to face whatever the universe had in store for them. The air was thick with tension as the human and the alien stood in front of each other, an invisible wall between them. For weeks, they had been living side by side, but something had always kept them apart. The alien woman, her purple skin glowing softly in the dim light, had kept her distance. She had a secret, one she wasn't ready to share. But today, something was different. She had never looked at him this way before. Her usually cold expression softened as she studied him. The human, for his part, felt the change immediately. He had always tried to show kindness, but it seemed like nothing had ever made a difference. He had learned to accept the strange silence that filled their home. Yet now, there was a shift, a new understanding in the air. "You've been patient," the alien said quietly, her voice almost a whisper. More than anyone else would have been. The human looked at her, confusion and curiosity swirling in his chest. "What do you mean?" The alien took a deep breath, then slowly, carefully spoke. "I was never supposed to be here. My people, they don't trust humans. But you." She paused, her eyes flicking to the ground before meeting his again. "You showed me something I didn't expect. You showed me kindness." He was stunned, not knowing what to say. It was true. He hadn't known what to expect when he agreed to help her. All he knew was that she was in need, and he couldn't just walk away. The idea of leaving her to fend for herself, in a world so different from hers, was unthinkable. "How can I help you more?" he asked, his voice sincere. He didn't care about the risks anymore. Whatever this bond was, it was growing stronger, and he couldn't ignore it. The alien stepped closer, her eyes searching his face, trying to understand him, to see if he truly meant what he said. She reached out slowly, almost unsure of herself, and placed a hand on his arm. For a brief moment, their eyes locked, and it felt as if the whole world had disappeared. The human could feel the warmth of her touch, a connection he had never expected. It was as though, for the first time, they were not so different. "I don't know what happens next," she said softly. "But I know I don't want to face it alone." The human smiled, his heart beating faster than usual. "You won't have to." They stood there, side by side, both uncertain but knowing that whatever was ahead, they would face it together. The bond between them had been formed not by words, but by actions, and now it felt stronger than ever. As the days passed, Aiden found himself growing more curious about Zira's mysterious world. The conversations they shared revealed little glimpses into the alien culture she came from. It was a world so different from his own, yet every detail about it seemed to draw him in deeper. One evening, as they sat together under the twinkling stars, Zira turned to Aiden with a serious look in her eyes. "There is something I need to show you," she said quietly. Aiden, always eager to learn more about her world, nodded eagerly. "What is it?" Zira hesitated for a moment before speaking. "It's something from my past, something I've been holding on to for years. I trust you, Aiden, and I feel it's time you knew the truth." Aiden's heart raced, but he didn't say a word. Instead, he waited patiently as she took a deep breath and stood up, motioning for him to follow her. They walked in silence, the sound of their footsteps echoing in the quiet night. They reached a secluded spot by a large, shimmering lake. The water reflected the moonlight, creating an almost magical glow around them. Zira stopped by the edge of the lake and turned to face Aiden. "There is something about this place," she said, her voice soft but filled with emotion. "It's where I first learned the meaning of trust, of what it means to truly rely on someone. My past, it's not easy to talk about." Aiden stood beside her, watching the ripples in the water. "You don't have to tell me if you're not ready," he said gently. Zira looked at him, her eyes filled with gratitude. "I'm ready now," she whispered. "You've shown me kindness when no one else would. It's something I didn't expect from a human." Aiden felt a lump form in his throat. He had never realized the depth of what his presence meant to Zira until that moment. She continued, her voice trembling slightly as she spoke. My people, we were once united, but now we are divided. I was part of a family that believed in peace, in bringing our people together. But everything changed when war broke out. My family was torn apart, and I was left to carry a heavy burden. I ran away, trying to find a way to make things right. Aiden's heart ached as he listened to her story. He wanted to reach out, to comfort her, but he didn't know how. Zira placed a hand on his arm, her fingers warm against his skin. But since meeting you, Aiden, I feel like I've finally found a place where I belong. You've helped me believe that there's still hope, even for someone like me. Aiden looked at her, his voice barely above a whisper. You're not alone, Zira. I'm here for you, no matter what happens. Zira smiled, a faint glow in her eyes as she leaned in closer. For a moment, everything else faded away. The stars, the water, the universe itself, until there was only the two of them, standing on the edge of a new beginning. And in that moment, they both knew something had changed. The bond between them had grown stronger, more unbreakable than ever before. The future was still uncertain, but for the first time, it didn't feel so terrifying.